Serious actor.
Welcome to the No Guts, No Galaxy podcast number 179. We are your hosts, Phil and Daeron. Today is Wednesday, August 28th, 2019. Like I say, welcome to everyone out there. Daeron, how are you doing?
Well, my memory isn't what it used to be. No, it has nothing to do with that. I came in, the doc wasn't updated except for one thing, the
No.
date. Why didn't you
And
do
then,
the rest?
And then this, too.
Yeah. All right, so it is 179. Good to see you, Phil. Good to see you, Violent. And
Hi.
yeah, happy Wednesday, everybody.
Yeah.
Speaking
Happy
of guests.
Wednesday.
Speaking of guests.
Yeah, Violent, the much blue. How are you doing,
With the
Violent?
very blue. I'm great. Doing great. It's beautiful here in Vancouver.
Yes.
My hair is blue.
Violent, let's
And-
talk about the weather a little bit. This is always one of my favorite parts of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Phil, what's the weather like there?
It's hot. It's not as
Yeah.
bad as it's not as bad as it's been. It's it's August, end of August, so it's on the decline. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. It's getting a little cooler.
How's
little.
it up there, Violent?
It's gorgeous. We've had all these days in like high 70s, mid 80s, lots of sunshine, little bit of rain here and there, which basically just saves me from going out and watering the garden myself.
Yeah. Take less
it's been-
showers.
it's just been beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it's in the low 70s here. Beautiful sunshiny day. I'm feeling it definitely. Anyway, it is happy summer. The summer is coming to an end slowly. You know, my daughter starts school next week, which is scary. The summer is over.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, and so anyway, it's been an awesome summer. Obviously, the summer for Phil and I, it's been a summer of like waiting for Mech Warrior 5. That's what this summer felt like.
Only for you, man. Only
Yeah,
for you.
only for
Nobody
us.
else.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But anyway, I hope you're all having a great summer out there, wherever you are, whatever your weather's like. If it's hot, enjoy it. If it's cold, enjoy it. Just enjoy your life. And I hope you're all doing well. Phil, why don't you launch us into this thing?
Yeah, I just want to say again, welcome to everyone out there. So we talked about a few things. You asked me what I had coming up. I had some races this past weekend up in West Virginia, up in the mountains, if you will. So yeah, that happened. I sort
Didn't
of
hurt yourself?
no injuries, just mental scarring. No, I actually I had a
What place did you come in?
well, I had a really bad race on Saturday. It was the long distance race. We had, it
Yeah.
was like 13 miles. I think it was 38 obstacles, and I think it was around 3,000 feet of elevation. And, I've been staying up late, and so I couldn't sleep on Friday night. And so, we had to get up at 5:30, so I was already up, and then we ate a very light breakfast. And then, the race is at 8 o'clock. And so I was okay-ish until about mile 9, and it was like a wall. I just hit a wall. There was no coming back from it. So
See, I would be okay
Yeah.
until like 10 seconds after the starting line, and then I would hit a wall.
yeah,
And I'd be like, who put this fucking wall right in front of the starting line?
It's one of those things where like I'm not beating myself up, but I definitely my performance that day was not indicative of where I am as far
We
as
believe
like,
you.
And then so anyways, I slept. I literally passed out. So if you're ever at like a race venue and stuff, the speakers are going, there's commentating, there's music, there's people everywhere, and there's a bunch of people I know. I literally just passed out like for an hour the sun's out. I just passed out and
Yeah.
then got a good dinner, a good 8 hours of rest, and then Sunday was a lot better on the two races. So yeah, but
Violent, you ever going to do a Spartan race?
No, it's really challenging. Probably the closest I ever came was my husband, Mr. Blue, who did Ironman Canada. And he did it during the hottest Ironman Canada in history. I went up over 40 degrees, which is like 100 and, I don't know,
It's hot.
100,000 in American.
Yeah.
So it was really, really hot. And it was quite an experience, like going through the process of training with him. And, because he'd never done triathlon before. And so he just decided this is something, it was on his bucket list. But it was a lot of training, and then the day of the race is so, as you know, Sean, like it's so unpredictable because you might not sleep. Your body, like Mr. Blue couldn't get food down for
Yep.
after he went out on the swim. it can be all sorts of things can happen. Your body might not actually be absorbing the nutrition it needs to keep it going during the race. So there are a lot of different factors. It's very challenging. So I'm support crew, right?
Yeah.
I'm car bunny, but yeah,
Hey,
it's
that support is
fascinating.
important.
It's actually just as important as everything else. Like I've watched a bunch of like 100 milers and then a lot of the Ironman. I follow one guy in particular. He's a Canadian, and Lionel Sanders. He's amazing, but he just qualified for Kona, which is the
Yeah.
big like that's where everybody
Yeah.
wants to go. That's the championship,
like the end all be all.
which is
Well,
crazy because it's like super hot and humid there too. Like, so the conditions are pretty miserable.
Extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Canadians have a little bit of an advantage. Moose are mean, and so they get a lot of practice running from. All right, I'm just
Dude,
gonna finish that.
you want to talk about like one of the most crazy things watching a moose run through about 6 feet tall of snow.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't even slow down.
No.
Is it
Jesus.
funny? No
Like,
matter what, if we have a Canadian on, we always end up talking about moose,
Moose?
mooses.
Maple syrup, something.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, anyways.
Our
My,
national mascot is the beaver,
Yes.
because, Canada.
Well, kudos to your husband for doing one. Like that's
Yeah.
one thing. Like I've been doing Spartan race for like 3 years, and I'm thinking about next year. I was gonna be doing some like mini triathlon stuff because I want to see,
Yeah.
do I like the swim, bike, run? There's also biathlons where you just bike and run, but to swim 2 miles, bike 10, and then run a marathon, like
Yeah.
even if you're not competing, even if you're just out there just to finish, like mother of God, like that is a test of like,
I like the endurance
It's
races
beautiful.
that are in vehicles better, personally.
yeah.
That's your stuff?
Yes.
Yeah.
No,
think
actually, I love those endurance racing, but yeah, that's hard stuff you're doing, man.
It's inspiring. Like
Sure.
to
It
me.
is inspiring. I think
Absolutely, man.
one of the coolest things for me about Ironman is that it is a sport where there are different body types that tend to be quite good. Like running, if you're like lean and you've got those great legs, that's fantastic. For swimming, if you have that really great upper body strength. For biking, lower body strength. So a lot of these three different sports really have their own sort of niche body type, training type. So when you're training for all three of them, that's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the appeal of Ironman.
We
You
had
know what you need for racing in a vehicle? A big fat ass to sit on the seat in your
Yeah.
vehicle. That's
Big
all you
drink.
need.
we had like
Big drink.
we had like a 200-meter swim actually this year, and
That
sucks.
you did?
Yeah, during the race.
Yeah.
And so like the thing
How's
that
how's your swimming?
well, it's fine, but when you're having, because it's mandatory to wear a life vest, because I mean you could drown. I mean, and they have safety, but I mean you could still
That's
drown,
hard to swim in a life vest.
right? And like
Yeah.
so yeah, and then you're wearing shoes too, right? So if you never swam in shoes, that's a little bit different. But
My
anyways,
my older daughter's running in her first 15K, I think, this coming weekend in Portland. I'm super proud of her. She
good for
totally
her.
took to running, and she does it every day, and and she doesn't have the body that's made for it, a really thin body or whatever. So, I find, even though I don't feel like I could do it, it's not my thing. I'm definitely inspired by people who push the limits and do things that are difficult and get through it.
I don't think the physical aspect, I think, is like, now this may sound
mental, right?
cliche. It's 100%.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like 90%
true.
mental, because like I'll see people, and even myself, like you'll just have a bad day where I'm physically capable of doing something. It's just mentally you checked out or something, or
Yep.
like you said, the weather's too hot, humid, or your heart rate's too high, you didn't hydrate enough, or you don't have enough. There's so many things. So like I think the whole runner's body, that's, yeah, if you're talking about like at the top end of like whatever, like you're competing for like a marathon, sure, there's a body type, but just to say like a runner's body, I don't know if that's a thing. So
Speaking of body types, let's get into MWO and video games, because
yeah.
that's more my body type. Phil, you want to do the support blurb?
Yeah, of course, support for this podcast is brought to you guys by you, our viewers, our patrons, our subs. If you guys would like to help support the podcast, consider becoming a sub or a Patreon. And of course, you can check out all of that information down below in the description, or just click on that sub button above for some access to awesome emotes and some other attributes as well. But as you guys already know, our guest is ViolentBlueMech. Violent, how are you? And of course, how have things been?
I'm great. Things have been good. I mean, occasionally things are. I mean, in all honesty, life is up and down. Yeah, life is so. But for the most part, I think my outlook is pretty positive, so that definitely helps. I'm not necessarily wired for everything to be positive, so I have to put a little extra effort in here and there. But I think that's a good thing because I've kind of had to learn that.
I don't think any streamer we've really gotten to know is wired to be always positive.
Well, what about person? Doesn't it have to be streamer, right? Like,
well, I'm saying because
well,
we're profiling
but
streamers.
But even if you were to,
no, I know some people, dude. I know some people that are just like you. Can't.
We believe you, man. We know you have friends.
I know people that know people that know people. No, that just are positive all the time, and you're like, what is going on here? You know, like. But anyway,
my mother-in-law. That's no, I'm dead serious.
No, I know they exist.
It catches you by surprise, but I mean,
I usually go, "Are you religious?" That's my first question. But not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying there just tends to be a trend. But the last time we saw you, Violent Blue, was at that shirt that you're wearing right there.
Yeah. Oh no, this is the 2017.
That was a year previously. But I was saying MechCon. So it's been a few months. It was December. We got to hang out with you in person, which was awesome.
That was really cool.
Got to drive around with you a little bit, talk, and so it's been a while since we've seen you. Hope to see you again this year,
December,
depending on what's happening. We don't know.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we've all got our fingers crossed. We don't know what's going on.
Hashtag win Russ. Yeah.
But ViolentBlueMech, everybody knows who she is around here. But if you want to catch her out, you can see her on Twitch TV, or twitch.tv at ViolentBlueMech, and Twitter at ViolentBlueMech. So easy to find and definitely an enjoyable stream to watch. She's a great member of the community, very positive all the time. No, I'm joking. But no, one thing that Phil and I noticed right away when you did appear in the community is that you were another streamer that we liked because of your attitude. And it's not about never saying anything bad about a game or our game or anything like that. It's just more of an attitude towards life, towards people, how you interact with your stream. We immediately recognized a kindred spirit and somebody that we knew we were going to appreciate and that we were hoping would stick around in the community. So thank you for sticking around.
Oh, cool. That's awesome to hear. That's really exactly what I want to hear. The first few things that happened when I started my stream were about people saying to me, I came in here, I wasn't feeling so great today. I feel a little bit better now. And that to me, that got me hooked. That was the big thing. So thank you. Good to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to you quite a bit. It's funny. I felt bad because I'd actually, I think, saw you the previous MechCon, but I actually didn't know who you were. I sent you that photo
Most
too.
People didn't.
She was a nobody back then.
No. I sent her a photo.
Was it
last week? I found that photo and I sent it to you. It was because we had
right.
There was actual official MechCon stuff, and I was going through the video. I was like, "Holy crap! There's Blue right there." So I sent her the photo. But what strikes me, and I wanted to ask, of course, what got you into streaming? I think is an important question to start. But then also, what got you into, but why do you stream? And I think those are two important questions for you in particular.
Yeah.
Actually, I apologize for this, and you can answer Phil's question, but I think if you don't mind, segue into answering his question by first answering who you are. Like, explain to us, to the viewers, to the listeners who aren't going that don't know you, like we just expressed our knowledge of you, our experiences with you. But for somebody who's listening to this doesn't know who you are, can you give just a brief, 2 minutes of who you are, and then you can answer Phil's question about how you got into streaming.
Yeah, my pleasure. So hi, if you haven't heard of me before, I'm ViolentBlue. I've played MechWarrior for about 6 years, and my background is actually finance. I'm actually a certified financial planner, but I sold my business a few years ago. So that's kind of a phase of my life that I think is in the past. And I got involved with MechWarrior. I was watching somebody play it, and I said, "Hey, that looks way better than the Candy Crush that I'm playing. So could I try it?" And just kind of got involved in the game. but I've just really enjoyed it. The biggest thing for me has always been community. It started out like back 6 years ago when I started playing. I got involved in this unit. I was actually the Merrick's. Was my first unit in general, and then within the Merrick's, we had a special unit called VOTF, or Vengeance of the Fallen. And VOTF was run by a guy named Zertam.
Wait.
Yeah,
From EVE Online, Vengeance of the Fallen?
yeah.
Wow.
So they were.
I was
so they
in
were
Vengeance
around.
of the Fallen
Were
in
you
EVE
really?
Online. Yeah,
Do you
back
remember
in
Zertam?
2003. I feel like I do. Like
Yeah.
that name. Now, that was 2003 to 2005-ish or something like that for me. That was a
Yeah.
long time ago. But I was in that freaking unit. That is so weird.
Yeah. So I got involved in that unit, and that was so the two things were the game and the community. And so Zertam was the one, like, I was like, oh, I'm gonna go try out this little mech. I got myself a little Cicada 3M. I was running around in that.
Good
And
choice.
yeah, it was awesome. And Zertam basically, yeah, I did the whole Goldilocks thing. This one's too little, this one's too big. I really suck in that one. Ooh, this is just fine. I'm adequate. So that was how I chose my first mech. And Zertam was the one who said to me, "Hey Blue, like he was an older guy. He was like kind of salty. He's like, all right, Blue, we got to get you out of that pissant little mech and into a bigger mech." And so he got me into the Cataphract, the Ilya Mirametz. That was my second mech, and I still love it to this day. It's actually named Zertam. If you ever watch me play, I take it out, I call it like Zertam, the hole puncher, because that's what it does. And Zertam unfortunately passed away a few years ago.
Oh,
And
bummer.
so yeah, he was just like it's this is sort of like the online world where people become a part of your life
Mm-hmm.
and you've never actually met them, and they're near and dear
Isn't
to
that
you.
crazy?
And still to this day, like, he hasn't been around for a few years, but I think about him all the time.
Well, I was
So
gonna say hello for me, but hello.
yeah,
Yeah, that's crazy. It's like what is it, that game 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon?
separation.
So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, Kevin Bacon. Yeah.
yeah. Like, I mean, I think that is the unit and the guy that I played EVE Online with so long
Wouldn't be
ago.
surprised. They'd been around for a while. They did other games, and yeah, they were great to play with.
That's
So I
crazy.
played with
So,
them. Yep.
are you saying you literally went from Candy Crush to MWO? There was no like transitioning from a
No.
mobile game to
Nope.
PC?
No, there was no transition. I had played, I think I had like Baldur's Gate on my laptop years previous. I played Dragon Age. I'd never played anything like this. I never played like WoW or Meow or any of the games. I saw this game and I was like, this is beautiful. And again, it was the community. Like, I started interacting and it was just, people were so cool. And you hear one of the things about MechWarrior, people come into it and like, you can find salt if you go looking on the internet for it, but if you play MechWarrior, it's just, you just play and people are cool and they're like, hey. I was in there last night just playing on my own, getting in some little games with no stream and nobody watching, and they're just people, they don't know me, and they're just like, hey, how you doing? Hey, let's go over here and watch my back and I'll take care. It's just such a great game. um, I mean, I have to make a comment about being a female in MechWarrior because we're a very small percentage. I believe the only statistic I've been able to find says that we're around maybe 3%. I think it's higher than that now, but when I last looked a couple of years ago, that was it. And I walked into this game and just didn't matter, right? It really just didn't matter. And that was exactly how I wanted it. People treat me really, really well. With, maybe a couple of exceptions that I can count on my 3 toes. Oh, so yeah, so it's just great that way. I love it.
So we got super lucky that you landed in our community. I mean, you could have been snapped up by any freaking game out there.
It's possible.
Yeah, it is possible. So thank you for that. And I get what you're saying. I've been playing video games since, as I always say, since Pong came out. And I've been in a lot of communities. There's a lot of games that I played for many years. And you're right. Damn it, we have one of the best communities
is.
out there.
Yeah.
And you've been a huge part of that, and continuing to encourage positivity and having fun with each other. And you're right. Sometimes I will just go in there and I'll drop without a stream or whatever. And you can always find bad anywhere, in every cross section of people, in
Yep.
real life or online, whatever. But I find the ratio in MechWarrior Online and BattleTech and this community is just wonderful. And as far as females go, it's a super good point, and there are some there's some that fly under the cover. So there's some that don't talk on comms,
There are.
and I
I've had
know
people contact
many
me,
of
yeah.
them. But what you mentioned you're going to TwitchCon. One of
Yeah.
the things I went to the first TwitchCon, and one of the things that really surprised me and made me really happy was the amount of girls at TwitchCon. Like when I was younger and more exposed maybe to the video game community, the ratio was, overwhelmingly boys and men. And
Right.
so, having two daughters and, just really wanting an equal playing field for them, I was so happy, and so I saw that happening at TwitchCon. It's getting more and more. The ratio is
Yeah.
evening out more and more. And I think you'll see that individually in games as well. It's awesome.
The ratio is evening out more and more, and I think a lot of the myths are getting dispelled because people really are watching. They're watching streamers that, obviously, women for the most part are really as interested as men are in these games and having fun. I mean, who doesn't want to have fun? So there's no split really there. It's just having fun, and I think there are a couple of myths around like certain advantages. We all have certain advantages and disadvantages, and a lot of people are realizing that at the end of the day, depending on what type of streamer you are, if you're really great at the game, you're really great at the game. If you're really entertaining, you're really entertaining. If you've got some cool stuff going on in your stream, you got cool stuff. And if you're just doing something simplistic like, ooh, look at my blue eyes, or, ooh, look at my great deep voice, whatever that is, it isn't going to push you to the top. It just isn't. So there's got to be substance behind things, and sometimes people will get a little bit down. They'll be like, oh, it's not fair because I'm not this or that. But at the end of the day, we see people of all varieties. We see younger people, older people, men, women, gorgeous people like on the other end like me. But we see all of these different faces, all of these different styles, and that's kind of what it's about. So it's definitely a field. I come from finance where it was, over the last 2+ decades, which was largely male dominated. And there were times where there were some obvious things going on that were biased against me and sometimes for me. But for the most part, gaming itself, as much as there's a lot of noise out there still, gaming is really, I think,
Get over the boobs, boys.
It's totally,
geez.
yeah. Like people are always like, boobs. Like people that only takes you so far, right?
Yeah,
You have to
absolutely.
look at all of the really great streamers. Like I was watching, what is it? Is it Kitty Plays or she's this beautiful woman. She is a great player. She's just so talented, and she's just given love to her people. She runs her community so beautifully. She's got all sorts
Ammunition.
She's great. She's absolutely fantastic. So but yeah.
It's
But I
absolutely
mean,
agree with you.
you have
Yeah.
to deal with stuff that Darren and I would never have to deal with too, as well. And then that's something, obviously we could go down a rabbit's hole in that. And I think that sort of alludes to what you were talking
Yeah.
about. It's like you've had to create strategies that I'll never have to deal with, which is crazy. And it's
But
unfortunate.
you're also leading the way and creating an atmosphere. I feel like a lot of streamers don't realize that they set the
tone
of their stream.
Just,
and so
yes.
yeah, I mean, obviously you can always have people come in and stir things up that you don't know or whatever, but we've been doing this for almost 10 years. We've seen so many different streamers and streamers that just complain all the time, oh, I don't get the numbers, and but they're doing that during the stream as well, and and they create a tone and they create a feeling.
Yeah. People have to be realistic about streaming. This is not like, if you thought about it this way, like if somebody said to you, okay, we're in career planning in school, what do you think about this job where 99% of the people don't make enough to pay their mortgage, only 1% do, and the rest of them will toil and toil and toil, and some people work 7 hours a day, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and not get paid for it? Like, who would choose that? This is it's like they used to say about acting, right? They're all out, doing waitressing and doing their jobs and making money. So this is really something. It's a passion. I'm also huge on the fact that streaming is a great way to educate people, especially young people, about being an entrepreneur. This is running a business in its most simple state, or it can, or you can go from very, very simple. You can just be like, oh, I've got a computer and I'm just going to start my stream up. Boom, there you go. But then you suddenly realize there's marketing involved. There's, there's the technical aspects of it. There's the
Schedules,
entertainment.
consistency.
There's schedules. There's consistency. But at the end of the day, there's also, somebody was saying, oh, you got to get luck. It's about luck or whatever.
I don't believe in luck.
It's about a lot of things.
Yeah,
I don't believe in luck either. I do believe that there's certain things, a certain timing that happens. But
Sure.
the fact of the matter is, if you prepare and you're ready, then that's the start.
Yeah.
But you got to push. I've run a business, and you don't just sit there and wait for people to come in because you're awesome. That doesn't work for most businesses.
Your mom may think so, but the just average people on the street don't know.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, you made a comparison to acting in the entertainment industry, and there's there's a lot of similar quotes within the industry. If you talk to people, that they'll basically say, if you can imagine a life not doing it, then don't do it. But if you can't imagine a life not doing it, maybe it's the right thing for you. And even then, I do believe in luck. Because I was in the music industry. I've been involved in entertainment since I was 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen insanely talented people with tons of drive never reach commercial success. Maybe they've been able to do what they love their whole life, but it's been a struggle. And I've seen people that, as far as talent, be in the right place at the right time, and luck can play a part. But that's not something you can count on in any way whatsoever. No. What's important is you've got to be motivated. If you want to do something like this, you've got to say, okay, I'm going to live and breathe this. I'm going to give it everything that I have, because there's a million other people out there that want to do it too. And
it goes back to, that's the exception. Yes, there's the exception out there, but it's not,
Well, the exception is the people that are able to pay their mortgage, like she was saying.
Well, no, I know.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess what I'm saying is, like, the general thing is streamers becoming successful is because of hard work.
Yep.
They're entertaining.
Drive,
they connect with their viewer base. They're really good at the game. Some people have a combination of those, like you mentioned earlier. I don't, yes, there's maybe here or there, but and as far as streaming, I think it just comes down to hard work and looking at, me and you share a lot of the same things when it comes to looking at streaming like a business, especially if you're right. How do you market yourself, and how do you grow your brand and branding? That's something me and you have talked about.
It's huge. Yeah,
right?
It is.
Like, even on my personal channel as well, I've talked to you a bit about it, and just the terminology you use, the visual sometimes, when someone comes to your channel, the aesthetics, what do your overlays sometimes look like?
What do people hear? What do people see? What do they feel when they come to your channel? All of those things are incredibly important.
You really have to put yourself in the point of view of a viewer. Like, you're expecting people to come and hang out with you for 2-3 hours, maybe drop some bits or some support or whatever. What are you doing that deserves that?
Well, that's why I think it's so important, and I'm guilty of this. I watch so much Twitch. Like, I don't think people realize that. Like, as a Twitch streamer, I'm also a Twitch viewer. Like, when I get done streaming, I'm usually going downstairs, turning on the TV, and watching Twitch. And so, like, what I do is, I guess I answer own questions, but, like, why do I watch certain streamers? Like, why do I tune in and watch Shroud? Yes. Why? Because he's ridiculously stupid good at games, right? Well, right now he's playing WoW, but I have no interest in that. But
takes a little skill, man.
And that's where you realize different streamers are pulling you in with different things. You've got the streamers who have amazing skill, right? Like, you've got Baradul and MechWarrior, who's like, just beautiful skill. You've got people who are community. They're like your best buddy. People like Moadib, Cyclone Jack, Starwolf. All of these people that you're just like, I just want to go hang out with my buddy. This is going to be easy. This is going to be awesome. So, and then you've got the people who've got some really cool stuff going on, like How I Nerd, where you're just like, what the hell is he going to come up with that? Here's a guy, he's sitting in his mech playing MechWarrior. So
that's cool, huh?
There are a lot of different Starwolf. There are a lot of these different streamers, Haven, who you come in, you listen, you hear his voice, you go, holy crap. And then all of a sudden he's got like Monica and anime and all sorts of things going on. So there are just so many things that are involved, right? Yeah. It's not it's not just simple. It's like dating, right? Like everybody's looking for something a little bit different. Everybody has a different appeal. And at the end of the day, you got to go out, look for it. You got to, do something decent with yourself, make yourself, market yourself, because nobody's just going to come up and throw themselves on your car and be like,
You got to
date me,
shower every
date
once
me,
in a while.
right? Yeah, you got to shower every once in a while. It's the same thing with stream, right? Oh, I just got my stream up and running. Why isn't anybody coming here? Nobody knows where you are,
Yep.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. We've talked about this on stream quite a bit, and I think I've talked to you about it, but like, I know I've talked to a few people, but exposure. MWO has always been a good game for smaller streamers, I feel.
It's great.
Right. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with saying small streamer. We're a small stream here. It's okay. Jeez, people. But it's okay. Like, and to find a game that you enjoy, I was doing some research on my personal channel. Like, what games out there could I play that I wasn't just some number where there's hundreds of thousands of people streaming, and you have to be very aware of what games you stream.
Yes.
If you're wanting to grow and get exposure. Now, there's other ways to get exposure as well on other platforms. And
I'm going to touch on that before you go on to the next one.
Yeah, go ahead.
And with regard to, again, with the business, sometimes you can use the numbers. There's somebody that I know who does that just brilliantly. He's a partner streamer. His name is Skullstream. And he actually, he basically has run different numbers, on these are the number of partner streamers. This is where they're at. Here are the games that'll put you on the front page if you're a streamer who has an average concurrent of 10 or 20 or 50 or whatever. He's go to skullstream.com if you're a streamer and check it out, because he's got some awesome tips that he's looked at the numbers. So it's very straightforward and it's really, really helpful.
Yeah. And I think there's a few websites that you can go to if you type in Twitch analytics and stuff like that. What you can do is you can pull up your channel, and then you can pull up channels that are very similar, and then it'll break down what games based on your concurrent viewers that maybe you can tap into. And it's funny, we're talking about Twitch, but also with Mixer and stuff coming out, they've got a different program, and I've talked to Loken about it, where they don't look at concurrent viewers as a metric to whether someone should become a partner or not. And that's something that I think is better, and I don't know if Twitch will ever change, but I know there has to be a metric for Twitch to, create a a chart of hey, once you hit this or once you reach this. But the problem is, for a lot of people that don't know, if you become an affiliate, is super easy. It's
straightforward,
and it's automated,
laid out.
Right? You just boom, 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 but then to apply for partnership, not become a partner, and that's a key difference. Is you have to meet these requirements, but that's just to apply. But they never quite say, oh, okay, boom, this is just the ceiling that you need to hit. And I feel like that's very disingenuous. And it took, again, we use Loken. It took him. And here's someone that has, I think, an amazing production and stream. That puts personality, everything. Just it's the entire professional package, and it takes him that long. Now you could say, well, kudos, he finally got it, which he did. But I just feel like how many people would have been discouraged and said, screw this? Twitch isn't looking out for me. And
no, they're not. Anybody
out.
Who has that illusion, please go dispel it now. There's no illusion that Twitch is looking out for you. Twitch is a business; they're looking out for themselves, but they take care of the people that are going to make the money, and they especially the ones that make them more, which for Twitch it's not like the big ones, like the top 5. It's the top 5,000, but in order to get those top 5,000 performing, you have to have a staff. And how do you choose those people? You don't want to choose somebody who's only going to be there for a short time. Your staff invest time in them, help them do things. So I understand from Twitch, but one of the things I agree with you 100% is that it's somewhat disingenuous to be saying partner level is 75 concurrent viewers, X number of hours, X number, and it's really the concurrence that everybody talks about, the number of viewers who watch you on average over a rolling period of time, say 30 days. And that a lot of people had in their heads as I achieve that, I will become partner. It's not. that grants you, that's like your cover letter, right? And the purpose of the cover letter is to get somebody to read your resume. So when you get those 75, when you get those numbers with Twitch, you don't get the job, you basically get the interview.
Yep.
That's it.
Yep.
And you may not get the job because after the interview. And part of the problem with Twitch is that if you get, if you have a certain number of people who are applying, they may not even see your resume. They may not see your
Yep.
application because there are just too many of them. And they age, they're not going to look at that information. They may just not have time to look at it. So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of rumors about it. But at the end of the day, I think that you have to look at it like what's in it, what's in it for you. And the thing is, if you think that you can be a streamer and partnered and sit at 75, 75, 75 for 1 year, 2 years, no, your numbers are going to fluctuate. So if you're at 75 concurrents, just like Loken got there, but now he's gone up. It's the same thing with Haven. He's up. So all of those, and sometimes those numbers can drop seasonally or with game changes or stream changes. But the fact of the matter is that you have to be like, all right, I got my interview. Now let me just keep stacking my resume, right? Let me get the 75 concurrents. Let me get the 100 concurrents. Let me get the 125. And pretty soon they'll do what happened with Loken. They can't ignore him anymore. He's just too good. He's got too much potential for the platform to say something like, we're just not getting to you.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things he said was he didn't even have an active application. He'd actually been turned down
Yep.
and had not resubmitted an application. And Twitch finally got their act together and went, geez, this guy's been, okay, like, I don't know what they did. But they were like, oh, crap, we got to let this guy in.
I think they reached out to him about it. And, like we're fortunate as far as like this channel, we started it years ago. And at the time too, again, I remember we had averages of like it was average like 300 people a day, let alone before we were on this channel, before we started working for PGI directly, we were on IGP's channel. So we got their channel partnered
That was
as well.
MWO's publisher back in the day.
Right. And then when they went under, we switched and we were like, hey, we already have a channel that's already got a good amount of following, and it sort of worked out. But
yeah.
But I think there's more.
The bar was easier back then because
definitely was.
Of course.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is for most things, right? Like you open your little cupcake shop on Main Street and you're the only cupcake shop. Everybody's coming in for your vanilla cupcakes.
Yeah.
Somebody opens up next door and they're offering peach cupcakes, chocolate cupcakes, and I don't know, strawberry swirl. Well, you got a little competition there.
Yeah.
And then you've got 5 cupcake places on the block, and that's the nature of business. If somebody has success and makes money at it, more people will follow.
Yeah.
And again, there's a super low barrier for entry to stream. So of course, and this is why we see some people going over to Mixer now, right?
Yeah.
Because they're just looking at it and they're going, you know what, the barrier for entry is low on Twitch, but to get to this particular level, it's just too high now. So they're thinking, I'll go over to Mixer. Maybe there's a better percentage of eyeballs that will get to me. And that's the hope.
Well, it's sort of funny. I mean, exposure, depending on the games you play, you could get more exposure potentially over there, but maybe not the viewership potentially, I guess, if we're looking at it.
It could go either way, right?
Yeah,
I mean, you could get more exposure because there's less competition,
Yeah.
or there's just less traffic over there, so they might not be walking by your cupcake store, right? It just depends.
I think if you're a newer streamer, I think it makes sense to try both potentially, or at least like, hey, I'm gonna give Mixer 6 months and see where it's at, and if not, then I'll switch, right? And then
There's so many variables. Twitch has way more of an audience, but way oversaturated.
but-
Mixer has less of an audience, less saturated.
I guess-
but then
Yeah, and I think
the
that's
games
secondary.
matter.
Like
Yeah.
we can, like at the end of the day, like whether it's Twitch or Mixer, a lot of the stuff that we're hearing from the top partnered streamers is that in order to promote, in order to brand, in order to get word out there and get people into your stream, you have to cross promote on different platforms.
Yeah.
And we're not talking Twitch versus Mixer.
YouTube,
we're talking Twitch,
Instagram,
YouTube, Twitter,
Facebook,
Instagram, TikTok, all, you have to be getting stuff out So you've got that person who comes in, and again, you got X number of people. It's like Taylor, Taylor is here, talks about, you got the top of funnel. It's just getting people in, getting their eyeballs. Certain numbers are going to drop off, but some people are going to move down and go, this is okay, I think I'm going to follow. And then you finally get like that sort of closer community of, these are your true fans.
Yeah,
like
your
these
core
are the people,
audience.
your core audience, people who really love you and have a good time, and you're giving them something of value.
Well,
So
and I feel like that's something to branch off and talk about is, building a community to where regardless of what game you play, they tune in. Like that is what I consider your core viewership, right? And then it's building that. It's like if you start up your stream and you have 100 people watch, and regardless of the game you play, 100 people watch, and you continue to stream, and that goes up to 110, 120. Now you may gain more viewers on certain games, and you may gain more followers, but you notice that at any given time when you boot up your stream, regardless, that's really what you're trying to do. Is you're trying to basically say is like, when I come online, I always see Troublesome, or I always see Sleepy Boy in chat, or Laurent. Those are the type of that's what you're trying to cultivate. Now, let me ask you from like I guess a business and like marketing perspective. How do you view Twitch? Like, what are things that do you implement certain things as far as marketing and sort of PR and the business side? Do you mind sharing that? How you look at it?
I think the biggest thing for me is because this is an entirely different business model, and it's not an entirely different, business is business. So there's sort of the core of business and figuring out, what your product is going to be and how you're going to market it and how you're going to brand yourself. So that's the start. But having been in business in something like, there's so many great models to follow if you're in a financial planning business or if you've got a cupcake store. But Twitch is still Wild West to some extent, and it's why it's difficult to find information. For me, there are a few things that I do. To be quite honest, I look at almost everything as a long tail or a longer term investment, and things that I cultivate. I cultivate the relationships with people who watch me. I want to know what's going on and what they like, because that's fun for me. I love people. I'm really introverted, to be honest, and I really like my alone time, but I also just love people. I'm so fascinated when people tell me about their lives. I feel like it's just they've given me something so neat and real and cool. I love that. But I've cultivated a relationship. Part of the reason going into MechWarrior is a game has good numbers. It's got a loyal following. People don't just go looking for streamers. They look for people playing MechWarrior. So you've got a certain loyalty there. I feel like I've cultivated a relationship with the different streamers in order to, and all of this stuff, sometimes when you're talking about business, it can sound a little sort of like, oh, you're trying to get something from people. That is a little bit what it's about, because you are trying to grow it. So you're trying to get stuff. So I've cultivated relationships with PGI by streaming this game and by making sure that my comments about PGI aren't biased, but they're fair, right? They're honest, they're fair, and I don't dig up unnecessary salts, because I just don't, that's not my style. I've cultivated relationship with streamers because they help me out and I help them out. There's the return, but I'm talking about the ask at this point. I've cultivated relationships with streamers so they can teach me things, and we share stuff, like we share visuals. I share my voice stuff with other people.
Tacos.
So there's the sharing aspect. Yeah, the tacos.
Yeah.
And also just the companionship of, oh, I'm going through this as well. I'm cultivating relationships with other streamers outside the MechWarrior community, so that as the game goes through its ebbs and flows and the community, I have other options for my business. I can expand. There's a whole, there are constantly things like different irons in the fire, if you will, that I'm always trying to stoke the fire, but I'm not counting on just one, right? There's always got to be something else.
I mean, out of that though, I could probably take, like if I was to pick something from all of that, what you just said, it really is getting to know your viewers and building a relationship, really. And then
Yeah.
it's relationships. It's relationships with your viewers, relationships with other streamers, relationships with potentially game
Yes.
developers. And yes, of course, business side, it's good to meet you, right? And us to know each other. And you could say use, but really it's the idea that I'm going to use you for companionship and to be
Yeah.
able to, and I think that's important, is like we all do it, but it's to have that.
Life is give and take, man.
It
Right.
has
all
to
around.
be
Yeah.
mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, like a lot of people like it has to be mutually beneficial because, and this is where the passion comes in. If the passion is just to grow and make money, I think it's going to be a really hard slog for people. But if the passion is for enjoying the company of people and feeling good about about the things that you do together, it's like any relationship. It is totally give and take. It's totally, and to be honest, I feel like I'm in a position in my life where I have a lot to give and I don't need a lot.
Yeah.
So I don't need to take. And it's part of the reason why I'm probably an over helper at times. People are just like, back off, Blue. I don't need any more voice stuff. Like, it's okay. And I'm just like, no, like I've got 18 more for you. So there's an over helping aspect. But I think that part of my job, because I've got a really good life, part of what I'm passionate about, what I love, is helping people who aren't quite there yet, people who are still struggling. So as much as I'm looking for, hey, how did you do that? Like, I always want to know, like in the back of my mind, it's always like, what is this person getting from me? Do they need something that I can offer? And then there's also that voice that says, when they say no, you can stop
Yeah.
already. So yeah.
It's funny you
So
say
there.
you consider yourself, or you are an introvert, because I
Very
feel
much
like
so.
that's something
yeah.
Darren and I talked to Loken about as well, and Baradul.
Everybody's an introvert.
Maybe even Haven to some extent, but
You get him in public, and he can be. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, but
I think it's a pretty common trait among streamers.
Has streaming helped you in that regard,
Um,
or changed your stance on how you look at it, maybe?
Well, I have generalized anxiety disorder with a little side of social anxiety disorder. So I have so the thought process that I go through, the things that I like and enjoy can be enjoyed on one level, but there's another level of me that just simply gets overwhelmed. And so yes, so what I would say is that coping with the introversion, or to the level where it's, for me, it's an actual disorder. It's not just kind of like, oh, I'm a little shy. I'll get the shakes, I'll get panic attacks and stuff like that. But learning how to cope with that, having those tools there, means that whenever, and it's something I had to learn to do, obviously, as a financial planner, because you're sitting down in front of people, you're doing like seminars and all workshops and all of these things. So you have to learn how to cope. And so, yes, it teaches me more tools about how to cope. It also reinforces that I have to have limits that I enforce, and there have to be times where, like, I often give the talk of, I am very comfortable saying no. Please ask me for whatever you want, because I will in fact say no. Even in some difficult situations, I will say, I would love to help you, but I cannot at this point. I do take care of myself. So you as a friend never have to feel guilty asking, thinking that I'm just gonna like say yes because I feel I have to. I don't.
Yeah.
So it gives me tools, but at the end of the day, I got to tell you, like last year after MetCon, for about a week, I was just at home, like really coping with the overwhelm. And yet there was a part of me, like there were still some people in town after MetCon last year, and I wanted so much to go out to lunch with them, or go show them the city, but I just didn't have it in me. So yeah. I'm okay with that. But but I love people, right? That's kind of the thing, is that when you love people, but after you're around them at a certain level of intensity, your body physically reacts to it. It's a little challenging. It's a little challenging.
I think, interestingly, Phil and I are both extroverts, but I would say a good 90% of the people we talk to in this business are introverts.
Well, according to my mother-in-law and my wife, I'm actually an introvert. I don't
agree with
They
that.
read a book and something, I don't know.
I
Right.
have
don't know.
I have a differentiator, and that
Yeah.
is, do you go into social situations and afterwards come out feeling, oh my God, that was great and energized and all of that sort of stuff, where you're just like, I could go on and do more
Or drained.
over the next few hours and days? Or do you come out of them feeling like, wow, I really loved that. That was really cool. I really need to go and rest. And so that's kind of my
Yeah.
differentiator
I
is
don't
the
have to
level of,
rest.
yeah,
Nope.
if you're
Yeah.
just like on with the next one.
Yep.
So whereas me, I
We
have
can
to
be
rest.
social butterflies, Phil and I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think both can work for this. You know, there's the fact that you're separated from everybody. You know, as far as streaming, it works,
Yeah.
and I think it can help improve certain elements of your personality or your life, or get you a little bit bolder or stronger. But you have to deal with reality, which I think sounds like you're healthy. You're doing that.
Yeah.
You're learning to say no when you need to say
Wouldn't
no.
do
And
yeah, wouldn't do it if
Yep.
it weren't healthy.
Well,
That's
Yeah.
definitely a big one for me.
Another thing too is like, you're on, at least, well, if you have a webcam, you're on webcam. But the difference being is like right now, I know I can see the two of you, but you're not sitting in front of me. And it's the same thing with like being
Yeah.
a streamer is like, the webcam's on you. I can see my preview. I know I'm there, right? So like, but you don't have these eyeballs staring back at you, depending on how many people are watching. And I feel like that
Yeah.
does help. Maybe?
It does. It helps. Actually, it's interesting because in my relationship with Mr. Blue, one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the relationship was communication. And there's a level of communication that you get by calling somebody on the phone. There's a level of communication you get by texting or typing or emailing somebody. And one of the rules that we had was if we texted and something was unclear and we were like, oh, well, is there something wrong? Then we would immediately move to phone because it's a closer level of contact and there's intonation of voice. And if we were still having difficulty, like, I don't know, like I'm getting the feeling like you're unhappy with me, we would move straight to a face-to-face. So there are different levels of
you escalate it.
You escalate it, and there are different amounts of clues that you get.
Sure.
Like people only see a certain amount of my body movement on camera. They see my facial expressions, but they can't see a lot of the subtleties. So I, first of all, don't have to worry about that. I didn't actually have a camera for the first
I
several
know.
months that I streamed because I wasn't comfortable. I just wasn't
Yeah.
ready for it.
Darren
And-
didn't have one either. He actually, no,
Yeah.
hold on, let me redact that.
What a
He actually
shame.
had a webcam,
Jeez,
but
man.
didn't
Didn't
use
use
it
it.
forever.
Yeah.
And now you're all regretting. See,
And
I told you.
oh my gosh, the amount of fight he put up to do a video cast like this.
Yeah.
Years, people.
I have a face for radio, that's what I've always
he
said, but
fought
anyway.
it for
This is a-
years.
I don't care.
This is such a different world, right?
Yeah.
Because we are so, like, I'm 49, so I've got a few decades on you. And the thing is that when we grew up, or when I grew up, and
Years,
even now,
girl, not decades on me.
years.
Yes.
And during this time, what you saw on video and TV and all of this stuff, what you saw the beautiful people, let's be honest, right? Everybody's good looking, everybody's thin, everybody's, got gorgeous clothing. That's what you saw. So the space for an average person like myself, like I didn't fit in there. Now we have YouTube, Twitter. Like if anything, this has created a world where, I mean, my child is growing up in a world where it's the people who are showing themselves aren't a tiny percentage of the population. There's she sees people like her. She sees younger people and older people and men and women and all different types of people
Yeah.
with different backgrounds. So it's a different world showing yourself on camera than it may have been. Like if I showed myself on camera 20 years ago, you would get what a lot of people got back then. She's old? Why is she on camera? She's not that, pretty or whatever your idea of beautiful is, like ultra
Yeah.
ultra beautiful. She's not ultra beautiful, or she's like passable or ugly from that angle. So there would be a lot of criticism. There would be like a lot of criticism of just the way you looked.
Yeah.
And so I think that created, especially in my generation, this insecurity about showing yourself on camera. The one benefit that I felt I had, one of the reasons I started streaming comfortably, was because people told me I had a pleasant voice to listen to. And I thought, wow, like that's something. Maybe people will just listen to my voice and feel like they're hanging out with one of their friends, listening to them tell stories.
I remember coming to your and watching your channel, and I'd ping you and I'd say, when are you gonna do camera? And you were like, maybe, and then
Yeah.
it happened. I'm glad. Yeah, I think there's a level of connectivity you have, and yes, I know there's exceptions to the rule out there before someone jumps on and be like, oh, so and so, yeah. But I think from a streamer perspective, especially if you're newer, smaller, or want the level of connectivity you have, because people can see your emotions, they can see your facial cues.
Yeah.
When, you react to something or you're playing something and you react in whatever the reason.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really important because you're 100% right. The texting, you don't get those cues. And so then your mind jumps to potentially sometimes the worst things or whatever, like,
and that's why people get in stupid fights. And they've been fighting for 10 minutes and then they realize at the end of that 10 minutes that they agreed on the initial point. And,
right.
There's so many misunderstandings. And so every level, when you added a webcam, you can see if I say something snarky, but I've got a little smile on, I'm joking or whatever, so I agree. It does add a level.
Yeah. And then at the end of it, yeah. I have a question, and this has to do with, so we know how you got into MWO. We know you love MWO.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Mech 5. I know you mentioned it before. You got to play Mech 5 at MechCon.
I did, yes. And I sucked. No, I sucked.
Did you do the pod, or did you do Yeah, that thing was hard. Like,
okay. Yeah, okay, so here's what happened to me when I went into the pod. They're like, here you go, here's a stick here, okay, just, don't need a keyboard. And I'm like, awesome, go. They close this thing, I'm trapped. I'm like, okay, great, no problem. I'm not, good thing I'm not, I have no problem with small spaces. At any rate, I'm going, and I'm moving my mech forward, and I'm trying to turn, and they hadn't told me about the buttons on the side of the joystick. So I'm trying to turn. I'm like, this thing has no turning. So I whack the joystick out of the way, and I'm like, screw this. I go back to the mouse and the keyboard. I'm like, yeah, I know how to use this. I still sucked, but at least I could actually play the game.
Right.
So I didn't. So I was in there and it was a good amount of time too, which was nice. I think the thing about it was that there's just when I first started playing MechWarrior Online, I was like, big stompy robots. But there's for me, it's just there's a magnitude higher. It's just MechWarrior 5. Those 15 minutes were really, really beautiful. I felt it feels more real. It feels more epic. It's newer. It's newer technology, and it's just a little bit more
destructible environments.
Yeah, it's a little bit more brilliance. There's some stuff going on. And I'm like a really, naturally, I'm a crappy player of video games. Like, I played this game called Drone Strike Force. Like, I swear, I am like the top most killed player. I am I'm the sacrificial lamb. So I don't know if I'm going to be any good at MechWarrior 5, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to love it and play it to death until I get adequate at it.
And your viewers will be able to join you.
It won't matter because it's it's
you can
have
a good
lance and PvE and
it won't matter to me. But this is interesting, and I was talking to somebody on my stream about this today, and he was just saying I just get, I think it was Mad Cat, and he was talking about how when he's playing the game at certain times and streaming, he feels like he wants it to be at a certain level. He wants a certain damage score. He wants a certain performance. But then he also kind of sometimes goes off on his own and just wants to kind of relax and build something stupid, right? Yeah. Whereas if he's serious, he's like, why you bring that stupid build, man? You've got, two SRMs, twos and a small pulse on your Atlas. Like, what are you thinking, man? So, but
I could see that.
Yeah.
Especially with MWO, there are I want to hop into a stock Timberwolf just for whatever, and then I get crushed by other good players, and it's like, okay, well, I can't have fun right now. All right, let me switch. Whereas you won't have that.
MechWarrior 5 is going to be a whole different ball game, but don't feel bad as far as the pods go. Phil and I got early access.
Yeah.
And they shut the door on me, and it's all silent, for the people outside.
No,
then
what was it?
2 minutes
what
later,
was it? You didn't know how to start your mech up.
I'm like, how do you start the damn mech?
Oh my god!
So it took me 2 minutes. I'm sitting there pounding every button, trying to figure out how to power up.
And you're pounding on the door.
You could just
they just press P on the keyboard.
Just
I'm like,
P,
what?
and he
I
was
thought
like,
it was a button.
Well, it was. You could do that too, and I was like, why didn't you just press
button.
P, in MWO? And he was like, really? That's it?
But
no,
it's gonna be fun.
That HOTAS setup was actually, I found really difficult. I could see, and we've talked about on stream about setting something up like that here, but I just don't know yet. I think my guess is if you're wanting like the sim perspective, that's the route you're going to go. And I also think that you could get really good out of it once you could adjust. We couldn't adjust any of the sensitivities and the
you got to personalize it.
Yeah, and we couldn't do that there. And I hopped on the mouse and keyboard one out in the lobby, and it was night and day difference. Like it was like playing MWO, and I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like, but yeah. So,
Sleepy Boy, it does not come with a Tide pod. We shall dispel them.
do not eat Tide Pod.
It's not
kids.
that kind of pod,
Yeah.
man.
Don't eat
It's not
Tide
that kind of
Pods.
pod.
Don't eat mech pods.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what the pod is, it is a small, it's a miniature room. It is a little pod, like think of it as like a sleeping pod or whatever. But you've got the screen in there and you've got your controls in there. So you're in an enclosed space, similar to a bit more of a cockpit feel.
Yep.
So just in case people are like, what's this pod thing? Like
Yeah.
that's what the pod is.
Yeah,
It's a little cockpit.
they were bigger than I thought. I thought they were gonna be like half the size of that, and we get there, and I was like, Jesus, look at these things. They're
Yeah.
freaking- and they were like metal too. It wasn't just like some plywood. No,
Your
I
little
linked-
cardboard, you're
linked,
sitting in a cardboard box like a cat going.
yeah.
I linked a bad picture of the pods in chat. That's one of the pods in the PGI office when they were still getting worked on. But anyway, that's one. You can see it in chat. They are awesome.
That was like a
we all
60
want
inch.
one for. Yeah,
I think that was
we all want one for our house, man. Like, no kidding. But you're gonna have to wrestle Paul for it, I think.
Is there anything with Mech 5 that like you're just giddy about? Is there anything in particular that you're just like ooh ah, or is it just?
I think it's really tough to say what I'm giddy about because I just haven't seen enough of it, and I'm already freaking giddy about MechWarrior itself. I love stompy robots. Like when I was a little girl, I remember going over to one of my friends' houses, and she's like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Let's play Barbies." And I'm like, "Why?" Like, why do you want to play with a doll? And I never really got into that. And I think all I needed was like a little like transformer or little bots or something like that. Because with MechWarrior, I just love I love BattleTech. I love the look of the mechs. I love the feel of them. I think the thing that I'm really curious about and hoping for is that I'm still gonna get that feel that you get when I jump into a mech, and I get very immersed in MechWarrior online, and I'm hoping that MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries gives me that same level of immersion where I feel like I'm kind of bouncing around in this mech a little bit and like feeling the boom of it and hearing the noise. So I'm sure that it's going to be there, but there's a part of me that's just like I don't want to like project myself in there yet because I just don't know. And so I'm just kind of holding back, or else I just have to
Speculation.
I'm kind of a wait and see. Yeah,
anticipation,
I'm not big on
speculation. Yeah,
anticipating, like happily anticipating, but not speculating. That's kind of how I roll.
Well, I think the visual and audio are so important, and I think in those pods and stuff, and that's one thing is you definitely, when you're rolling around in the mechs, they felt weightier, the sounds, and of course we've got another AMA coming up, which is going to be interesting. It doesn't have to do with that per se, but we get to find out a little bit more about the Mech Lab, which they've alluded to here and there. September 4th, the AMA.
That AMA, it's a MechWarrior 5 AMA regarding the Mech Lab. It's Wednesday, September 4th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UTC. And, 10 a.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. UTC, and then again at 6 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. UTC. And that is, of course, at the MechWarrior 5 community Discord channel.
Like I was talking to you about the mod scene and stuff, but I've had a small group of guys who've just been waiting because I'm going to get involved in the mod scene. For those that don't know, we've talked about this before, sort of Mech Commander and stuff like that. But like we're just waiting, and I think what we're going to do is sit down in October, and as soon as we have beta access, like we're going to already be able to start messing about to sort of see what's possible. But it's the visual and audio, and I think then the other thing would be feel, and that's where like the rumble seats or something like that, where you can get some feedback or whatever. But the visual and audio obviously are the most apparent because they're the easiest to achieve, right? But BattleTech, the game, the tabletop. Do you play the tabletop, or did you back
every day,
anything?
man? She plays it.
Every day. every day. No, I've never played it. I've played Alpha Strike at MetCon, but I actually didn't. I actually haven't. I'm tabletop for some reason. It's just not immersive enough for me. That being said, I was actually talking to somebody when I go down to PAX West tomorrow. I'm actually we may just play a little
Nice.
tabletop.
You know
Yeah.
what, Violent, and I feel like this would make the experience better for you. What tabletop has always been for me, and this has been whether it's BattleTech or D&D or anything that I've played over the years, since I was 12 years old, I started playing tabletop.
Yeah.
It's not about sitting down in the middle of the afternoon and playing for a few hours. Yes, you can absolutely do that and have a great time. But for me, what it was all about was starting at like 7 o'clock at night, and you'd go all night with your buddies. You'd be
Yeah.
drinking, you'd be,
Yeah.
having a good time. And then all of a sudden the sun's rising and you're like, oh my God, the entire night just passed. And it's all more about socializing with the people at the table and it can be
Yeah.
immersive that way. But anyway, what about Harebrained Schemes BattleTech? Did you get a chance to play that at all?
I have that, and what happened was I got that, and I was going to stream it. Streaming takes up for anyone who doesn't know, streaming can take up a lot of time.
A lot.
And I've been doing not only so I do streaming. I'm also getting into voice acting, and I've got another project which hasn't been announced yet, but that takes up a lot of time, and so part of me is so focused on streaming that I was like, well, I should stream BattleTech, but I'm still working my way around a whole bunch of stuff in my stream, and so I haven't done it, and I feel kind of guilty about it too. I actually just we had that massive Kickstarter GoFundMe that we I'm in on that too. Right?
Sweet.
Like, geez, I mean, if you want to talk about how unbelievable the whole BattleTech community is,
That's
look
it
at
right
that
there.
2.5 million.
Yeah.
Over 2.5 million raised. I love their goal. It's like, here, we would just like to have 30,000. Please, sir, can we have $30,000? How about 2.5 million?
Yeah.
Eh,
And one of the top 100 Kickstarter programs of all time. I mean, that's huge. And so I feel like we're a silent, fanatical community, but we are there. And I look at it as basically like a mini version of Star Trek or Star Wars communities.
I do too, actually. It's funny you use that. I feel the same way about that. Like, I'm like, there's like Trekkies and people who are into Star Wars, and then there's like the BattleTech. I love that. I mean,
We're
that's why
here and we're strong, man, and it's awesome.
Clan Widowmaker, which is my unit, is over 200 people strong consistently, always. And I mean, we don't just pack the roster and leave people on there. If people aren't active, we let them, we remove them, and we've got people joining all the time because it's a great universe. It's a great game.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's about the awesome community, really.
Okay, speaking of games, this is our usually our closing question, and I've had fun asking everybody. So now, but you're a totally unique situation in that. Again, I'm still tripping out on Candy Crush to MWO, and thank God we got you, and Dota didn't or something. But if you now, with your experience of streaming these last few years, or how long have you been doing it?
A year and a half.
Year and a half. So I'll say 2 years. We'll round up. If you had a team available to you and all the financing in the world to make it happen, if you could design a video game, what would ViolentBlueMech design as a video game? Doesn't have to have mechs in it whatsoever. But if you had that ability, what would you make something that you'd have a passion for?
I'm currently reading this series right now. It is space opera with a side of. I just got into it. Great Wolf actually suggested it to me, and I'm just looking it up here. And so basically, you've got people, and they're in spaceships, and there's also an aspect of magic in it because the person who's the magic user has to be really careful because they'll like mess up all of the electronics and all of the tech. It's called Galaxy Outlaws. And I think that if I were making a new game, it'd be Galaxy Outlaws because you'd have this combination, space opera. You have this
Oprah. Space opera.
Because you have this combination, like I would want to have that combination of a little bit of RPG and D&D magic, because I'm always in D&D and any of that. I'm always the magic user. I love magic. I love hurling my magic missiles. So I would have that, but I would also have this aspect of It have an aspect of space. So actually, with MechWarrior, like I might even bring it back down to, like you could either do like the space opera with magic, or like that book, or else you could do something with MechWarrior and magic. I know it's a little odd, but I don't know. I want to like kick mech ass and then go out and, when somebody takes my mech down, I want to like drop out of there and like hurl like magic missiles at them out of my fingertips. That's my game.
Am
All
I good
right.
at
Make it happen, man.
standing
Make it
still,
happen.
Phil? My camera's frozen.
No, don't worry. We can.
I'm not holding that pose.
It's all right.
And there would be cupcakes
Look, I can.
and poutine.
Yes, and tacos and yeah.
And tacos. There'd be food. Yeah.
Look, I can talk with my mouth closed. That's awesome. First of all, I'm gonna have to get the name of that series because that sounds very interesting, and I'm always looking for a new series.
Yeah.
All right. Well, is there anything? What?
It's a great photo
Mech
of
Warrior
you.
and Magic.
Yeah.
Mech Warrior and Magic.
Mech
Yeah.
Warrior and Magic. No, I could totally see that. I mean, I play fantasy games. I play sci-fi. The combo would be awesome. So, ViolentBlueMech, do you have anything as we are about to part ways that you'd like to let our audience know about you? It can be about, or just any message you want to give us on the way out.
Yeah, I would say two things. The first one is thank you to everybody who's ever come into my stream, whether you've said something or not said something. Thank you so much for that. It means the world to me. And the second thing would be I want to say thank you to like you guys and to PGI, like Piranha Games.
Daeron.
Thank you for providing this. Sometimes like, you take a little
Whoa.
flack, but all of the people that I've met, because I'm in Vancouver here, and I'm not close to anybody, like I don't know anybody, but really personally, but all the people that I've met have been really great people. When I've been to the PGI studios, it's been, there's an incredible amount of talent there and an incredible amount of passion, and I just really appreciate it. So I just wanted to say that. So thank you.
Right back at you.
Yeah.
Phil and I obviously have a big part of dealing with streamers and the community and so forth. And like I mentioned earlier, the moment you entered into our community, it has been wonderful. And we hope you don't ever
Thanks.
leave. You're a total asset to this community. We appreciate you
I'm
having you here.
I'm stuck like a lot of people are. Like we can just see there are people who just there's things that sometimes people, I think there are people in the community who complain and they're trying to be constructive because they're so passionate about it. And I'm kind of stuck in the community now. I just can't see ever leaving because whatever is out there, even I'm just going to want a little piece of it because I love it.
Well, I've been in the community for 35 years today. This summer is the 35th year anniversary of BattleTech, the franchise. Phil's been in
Yeah.
for like 25. We hope that you do stick around and
You're
we get
stuck
to see
with
you.
us. You ain't
You're
going
stuck
nowhere.
with us. We're not letting you go.
It's
Yeah.
a good thing. I
Sorry.
like it. Thank you.
Not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
But yeah, I just want to say thank you. Daeron, it's good talking to you. And of course, Violent. And of course, you can follow her at twitch.tv/ViolentBlueMech. And of course, twitter.com/ViolentBlueMech. We will have that in the description below. Thank you again for being on here. Thank you again for being part of the community. Thank you for just being awesome. And
You're welcome.
I think that's just thank you for being a good person. That's yeah, thank you.
I do my best.
Of course, this podcast is supported by you, the viewer. Please consider supporting us in a variety of ways. You can follow us here on the Twitch channel. You also become a sub. Just click on that sub button. Check us out on Patreon, our merchandise store. We have a link below. And of course, if you want to get some swag that way. And of course, if you are going to shop on Amazon, we do have an affiliate link where if you guys buy stuff, we get kickbacks. And it doesn't have to be what's on the link down below. It can be anything. But yeah, consider doing that, and we'd appreciate it.
Also, be sure to check out our website at NoGutsNoGalaxy.net or on Twitch at NGNGTV, YouTube at NoGutsNoGalaxy TV, Twitter at NoGutsNoGalaxy, Facebook at NoGutsNoGalaxy Podcast, SoundCloud at NoGutsNoGalaxy, and for all the latest and greatest in mech porn t-shirts and mugs, be sure to check us out at NoGutsNoGalaxyStore.com.
This was your local No Guts, No Galaxy MechWare podcast. Signing off for tonight. This is Phil.
And this is Daeron.
Until next time, Mech
Bye.
Warriors. Bye. River Derchi.